What happened to all this crap that you were going to do? Where's all my relief? Where's all this? We're in a mortgage crisis. We're in a nuclear winter recession. Where's the banker? And the Conservatives are going to be sitting back being like, told you.
Recently, the Conservatives voted with the Liberals on Bill C-5, the Building Canada Act, and it has left a lot of people confused. Why did they vote with the Liberals, and should we be concerned? Well, we're about to find out.
Let's take a look. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bill C-5, an act to enact the Free Trade and Labour Mobility in Canada Act and the Building Canada Act, or the Building Canada Act for short. So, as you can see, even the summary is quite long, so we're not going to go through that. But, in short, the bill can be divided into two parts. Part 1, the Free Trade and Labour Mobility in Canada Act, and Part 2, the Building Canada Act. So what does this bill essentially do? In a nutshell, there's a lot to it, but in a nutshell, it aims to remove all of the trade barriers between the provinces. It allows, or it's supposed to allow, people with professional designations to be able to work in any province.
So that would be your doctors, your nurses, your lawyers, registered veterinary technicians,
well, your tradespeople.
Tradespeople as well, yeah.
And stuff like that. But it doesn't go far enough on that. And there's some issues with that, which we won't get into because that's for a different video. Now, the second part is the Building Canada Act. Now, what this is essentially supposed to be doing is it gives the government very broad powers to be able to carry out projects, and it allows them to override, legislation to be able to, say, build pipelines, which we know will not get built, but build other projects. And it basically says if a project is designated as national interest, then those powers would apply. So the issue is that this consolidates a bunch of power with the government and government and council in order to actually be able to do that. And it puts a lot of power in the cabinet, and the only requirement is that there's a minister review every 5 years. So that's this in a nutshell. Now, why did the Conservatives vote with the Liberals on this, despite the fact that the NDP and the Bloc and the Greens all voted against this?
And the Green, you mean?
Right. Green. The Green Elizabeth May. Okay. So we've been having some conversations today, and it confirmed what we thought. The number one thing that people need to understand about what is going to be going on in this parliament is it's going to be functioning different than the last parliament. The one thing that the Conservatives learned in the last parliament is they cannot always be, let's just say, the rage machine.
They can't be adversarial, is what it is.
In every single case. They can't vote down every single bill because they have to accept the fact that they didn't win the election. The other thing that they have to accept is that Carney is going to be trying to do things that were in the Conservative platform, right? Because almost half of Carney's platform was the Conservative platform.
Right, which is why we had said last year that the Conservatives are not releasing their platform early because the Liberals will steal it. Again, they didn't release it early, but when they did release it, the Liberals stole a significant chunk of it.
Right. So the Conservatives are going to be playing the long game on the Liberals when it comes to this government. And they've been watching very carefully what Mark Carney has been doing, what he's been saying, and what he said he's going to do, which is the most important part of this. So this leads us to Bill C-5. What Mark Carney is implying to everybody with C-5 is, I could build pipelines. The Conservative has Conservatives have said they want to build pipelines. He said, I want to build infrastructure. The Conservatives have said, we want to build infrastructure. So Carney has implied that he wants to build all these quote-unquote nation-building projects. Carney has not said what they were. So if the Conservatives voted against this, all that would happen was that it would be that Carney would be hitting them over the head with a sledgehammer, because he'd be saying, well, the Conservatives have said this is what they wanted to do, and now they're voting against it. See?
Yeah, why aren't you voting for this bill? Don't you want to build pipelines? Don't you want to build infrastructure?
They are against building Canada. Everything they were saying was crap. Everything they were saying was just to placate. And now they're being the obstructionist yet again. And
yeah, they're stopping us from trying to do it.
Right.
So there really is no win here for the Conservatives. Yes, the bill is not, what would you say? It's not...
It's far from perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And there are opportunities to change the bill. Right now it is in committee, and that's where a lot of the work gets done and a lot of the changes happen. But the Conservatives had to vote yesterday, which was Monday, June the 16th. They had to vote yes in order to get it to committee, in order to get it to that stage.
So the Conservatives, this Parliament, are playing the long game. Look at the way Carney has been acting, and we've kind of alluded to this before. He's not approaching this like he's the Prime Minister of a cruise ship agility like government that wants to turn around and do a 180. He is approaching this like he is running a private organization where you tell people to do things, they happen, usually right away. And if they don't, you fire them. Well, this is government. You tell people to do things. If they don't do it, you can't do anything.
Right, so, and it takes a long time to accomplish nearly anything.
Yeah, literally anything. Yeah. And even when you're making headway, you know, it's like saying, okay, I'm going to be walking to that tree over there. And then you start walking. It takes you 2 days to get there. And then you realize when you're there, you're actually 50 yards to the west away from that tree. You're like, well, what the hell happened there? That's where I was going. Yeah, well, stuff happened. And then, you know, we just moved you over here. So that's what can happen with government, especially when you're in a minority. And think about all the bravado he's come in with. He said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to transform Canada, and I gave up my job to come back here, and this is a crisis, and I'm Mark Carney, and I'm the banker, and the king came for me, and I'm going to build all these nation-building projects. Well, let's just kind of break that down. So the Liberals have promised all this stuff. This is what C-5, according to them, is going to allow them to do. The problem is the provinces are going to be squabbling with each other. The Indigenous communities, as we saw in committee today, if you watched it, they're all up in arms at the Liberals about this legislation because they're saying, why are you trying to ram this through? We haven't even consulted with anybody. You're going to be in court for the next 10 years if you put this through. So what angle are the Conservatives taking on this? They're saying, okay, Mr. Carney, here's your rope. We're going to give you all the rope, and we're going to sit back, and we're just going to watch you tie it around your neck and see what happens.
Metaphorically speaking,
Metaphorically speaking. Because they know that he's made all these promises, and nothing is going to happen. Nothing's going to get done, especially in a minority government, especially... Mark Carney seems to think he had one meeting with the premiers, and they're all going to get along like a house on fire. I don't think so. Have you been paying attention to these political leaders? They have one interest and one interest alone, their own province.
Well, and there's a lot of discontent across Canada right now. You have now 2 provinces that are threatening separation.
Right. So you're going to be having a lot of problems getting any of these nation building projects built. And we'll see how long it takes to get this provincial free trade going on, because that's another thing that the Conservatives had said that they wanted to do in their election campaign. So it makes it hard to vote against them. So instead of Mark Carney using this as a sledgehammer over them, what they're going to do is say, listen, we've given Mark Carney every opportunity to do what he said he's going to do. He wasn't able to do it. If only you'd looked at our plan, but wasn't interested in that.
Right. Again, we had discussed this right after the Conservatives lost. Maybe things are not bad enough for Canadians. And as terrible as that is to say, I think that if they give Carney the latitude, if they give the Liberals the latitude to try to do things like this, and then they fail spectacularly, then Canadians will be like, wow, these guys really can't do anything. They are the same old ministers, same old party that they were under Trudeau. Let's vote Conservative.
And you have the media still trying to say, oh, look at Carney, he's doing so amazing and all this stuff. Yeah, right, nothing's been done yet. Wait 6 months.
Wait 6 months and then nothing will still be done. And then we'll see.
Wait 6 months, nothing will still be done. We will be in Canada's mortgage crisis. I looked again, folks. Last time we gave you the update, and this is just a microcosm, there was 25 properties up for sale in our neighborhood. That's up to 33 now. So you are going to have this mortgage crisis explode in Canada, unfortunately, and it's almost a saving grace that the Conservatives weren't in power then, because they wouldn't have been able to solve this within the next 6 or 7 months, and the Liberals won't be able to either. So the fact that they're in power means that the Liberals will wear it.
Right, because this mortgage crisis has been years in the making, 10 years in the making under Trudeau.
Grocery prices are still going to go up. Allegedly, there's going to be some magical deal with Donald Trump. Well, one thing about Donald Trump is you can count on the one thing he says one day is going to be different the next day. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. Carney seemed to be completely surprised when he introduced him, and the reaction that he had to him. That was something to see if you hadn't seen our video on that. So what is going to happen? So the Conservatives are setting the Liberals up to say, all right, you guys want to do this? You want to carry out your promises? Go nuts. We know what's going to happen. And nothing is going to happen. So come January, when Canadians look over their shoulders, they're going to be like, wait a minute, nothing's happened. What happened to all this crap that you were going to do? Where's all my relief? Where's all this? We're in a mortgage crisis. We're in a nuclear winter recession. Where's the banker? And the Conservatives are going to be sitting back being like, told you.
Yeah.
And people are talking about the fact that Pierre's polls are down. Of course they're down. Of course they're down. He hasn't been in the House of Commons. He's taking a step back. He's resetting. And you're going to see, I think, a different Pierre coming into Parliament in the fall. And that's going to be the interesting thing about this, is that's going to be more of an event. People are going to be paying more attention to see Pierre Poilievre's coming back to Parliament versus Mark Carney. They're not going to care about Mark Carney in the fall. They're going to care about what's going to happen when Pierre comes back. And I think you're going to see the unnamed but acting Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre instead of the opposition attack dog Pierre Poilievre going into government.
Yeah, he'll be like the Prime Minister in waiting.
And you're going to have the government in waiting. So this is a long-term strategic play for the Conservatives, and that's how they're going to be voting here, right? They're going to be giving the Liberals no excuse at this point to be able to say, well, you guys are obstructing, us trying to build Canada.
Right. We couldn't do this amazing thing that we promised we were going to do because you bad Conservatives stopped us.
Right. So the Conservatives are going to say, yeah, you want to do that amazing thing that we know is not going to happen? Yeah, go ahead. See what happens. And then explain to everybody why it didn't fail. You won't be able to blame it on us. So it's going to be an interesting Parliament. There's going to be some decisions you can say, why would they do that? And you have to look at a much broader picture as to what that strategic play is going to be. But as these decisions come up, we will be able to break them down and try and break down what that strategy is, where their angle is, and how they're trying to play this. So in short, don't be worried about the fact that they voted for C-5, and they may vote with the Liberals on some other things as well. But it's not because that they're the uniparty. It's not because that they're aligned with the Liberals. It's a strategic play. And there's more going on behind the scenes, and there's more going on in the plan than meets the eye. So hopefully that explains why they voted the way they did. And that shouldn't concern you about the fact that they are still going to be picking their battles. If there is an opportunity to smack them over the head, they're going to take that hook, line, and sinker.